Hello and welcome to Man's Model Moments, the midweek model meet. It's been a while. We had a hiatus of a couple of weeks, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, can't remember, but it's been a while anyway. So welcome everybody, thanks for joining. See, slightly different setup. You've seen it on Airfix and Chill if you were there on Monday. So I'm back to the spare bedroom, but now the other way. So before you could see that wall, but now everything's been tidied up, with the exception of that pile of books, all ready for kind of house viewing, and so it's been sanitized. I don't have my acoustic foam, so apologies if the audio it's a little bit more echoey. I've still got my echo shield on my mic, so hopefully it'll still be okay. Obviously, going through the whole process of selling the house. Also was doing some training last week for a new job. That actually ended today because there were a bunch of shysters. Oh my God. It was a comedy of errors, but yeah, not a company anybody should work for. So yeah, probably that's the shortest period of employment I've ever had in my. But oh dear God, yeah, good product, but the company and the management just absolutely terrible. So that's taken me away from everything really for the last 5 days. Of course, we had a bank holiday in there as well. Also had some issues with Royal Mail picking up my parcels for the shop. So apologies. I know a couple of people have been waiting for quite a while for some stuff to go out. So apologies to everybody. It should have gone out last Tuesday. Yeah, last Tuesday, I think. But the Royal Mail collection didn't. It sometimes happens. The Royal Mail collection doesn't go through, so they don't know about it and they don't come, or occasionally they come but they haven't brought any labels. I always get them to bring labels with them because it's so much easier. And then they have to faff about while I print them out, and then we have to stick them on. Which is avoided if they bring them, but if they don't bring them, so it's not exactly a smooth system, let's put it that way. So in the end I had to take them, and of course I had 2 days of training, so I was in Southampton, so I actually took the parcels with me to try and get them to a post office, but I ended up dropping those off on Friday to the sorting office because they're click and drop. They have to go to a sorting office. If you take them to the post office counter, they charge you extra per parcel because they're not the same company, of course. And then the bank holiday, of course, delayed things. But everybody should have stuff. If you haven't got it today, it should be tomorrow. But again, apologies. Those people have been waiting quite some time. I did put extra bits in their parcels as a way of apology, but certainly now, thankfully, well, not quite up to date because got some orders in this week, obviously, so those have to go out. But yeah, it's been a stressful couple of weeks, certainly. So we completely cleaned the house, a real deep clean, which as anybody knows, if you've been in a house for any length of time, it takes a while. You let things, even when you're just doing normal tidy up and stuff, you're not doing like all of the corners that, we live in a thatch cottage, so as you can tell from the beams and things. So you get a lot of spiders, a lot of insects, which then the spiders eat. And of course, then there's cobwebs and bits everywhere. And that happens within a matter of hours of cleaning. It's just a constant battle. I don't mind the spiders because they keep the insects down, but the insects don't leave bloody cobwebs everywhere, which spiders do. So, and then I had to do some painting. There was some like snag fixing to do. Those bits that you think, well, once we've done X, we'll do Y, but you don't do it because to do X, you need a certain amount of money. So I had to do all of the kind of small snag fixing that we were going to do after doing other things. So we sorted out the floor in the bedroom and all these kind of bits. But okay, Mark, that's that's annoying that nothing has arrived yet, because the track stuff, if you pay for postage, it all goes track 24, so it should be with you next day, if the Royal Mail do what they're supposed to do. So that means everything should have been there today, latest. I mean, really, it should have been there yesterday. But anyway, I appreciate the fact that you guys were all pretty understanding. But I appreciate that, if you've not been a customer before, you were expecting something quickly and you don't get it. That's frustrating, and I can only apologise for that. So yeah, it's been a really, really stressful couple of weeks, but we're kind of through that now on the final straight, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll got the draft brochure for the house today. We'd like a couple more photos in it, but it looks pretty good, so that'll go up and hopefully get tons of interest. So if anybody knows anybody rich in London that wants to move out to Dorset in a nice chocolate box cottage experience, please send them on. Hey, I'm going through William Wallace in Shaftesbury, so that should hopefully be up over the weekend. Alternatively, if you just want to have a nose around my house, you can do that as well. So all of that non-modelling stuff now is kind of died down a bit. So we can get on to the actual modelling things, which brings us on to tonight. So a few things. The main thing I want to talk about tonight is old models, old kits, vintage classics, whatever you want to call them. And it was really inspired by the Bristol Belvedere that I reviewed, the vintage classic, which came out from Airfix a few weeks ago. I think that was the first unboxing and build review I did. And people like the format, so I've been doing a few more. And there was a certain segment that were very much of the opinion that I was very harsh on the Belvedere, because I said it was basically this kit of its time, but it has a lot of flaws in it, which mean that I would have liked Airfix to have done a little bit of updating, like the transparencies. And I think if they'd done that, you could accept the other stuff as a challenge, right? But the transparencies really make it unbuildable in its kit form. Has some other bits as well, but so looking at that, and a lot of people said, well, if you want to see it made well, look at Greg's from Greg's Models, and I had seen the video. Greg did a really, really good job, but as he said, it almost made him stop modelling, and it was a hell of a lot. So I thought, what better than to invite Greg onto the Midweek Model Beat to talk about it and talk about the general subject about vintage classic kits and old kits and what their place is in the hobby. So without further ado, let me invite Greg in. And
hi, Alex. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great stuff. Okay.
Yes, welcome to. At least you haven't got a torch underneath your chin, like
yeah. I might put a few more off. Yeah. So how you doing? You okay?
Not too bad yet. It's got all the stressful stuff not completely out of the way, but the big monolith of doing all the cleaning and stuff. There's still bits we need to do, but it's kind of we can go along doing that. It's not such a massive thing. So
it's a painful scenario. Yeah, so I've been there. I can sympathise. So yeah.
But how about yourself?
Fine. Still doing things around the new house. So yeah, the patio done at the front. So we're getting there. Blinds, things like that. So yeah.
When did you move?
Sorry.
When did you move?
Christmas.
Okay.
To Shaftesbury. So we should have moved August. So, but as I said, you know what it's like moving house. It's just when you do get that exchange day, it's right. It's great, but even then, nothing's guaranteed. So to the 11th hour. So yeah. So thank you for inviting me.
No, you should have just come to the house. You're only down the road.
Am I? Yeah, of
You're in
course,
Shas-
of course, yeah, of
you're
course,
in
yeah,
Shaftesbury.
yeah, yeah,
I'm Nottingham, so
yeah, of course,
literally
yeah, of course. Yeah.
what 3 miles, I think it is.
Is that all it is? Right,
I
right.
think so.
So I'm still new to getting the feel for the area, but yeah, it's just nice to not have to worry about getting across that Solent and the expense. It's yeah. So yeah, it's great. Free at last. So, yeah.
So Greg, you famously, I think, I wouldn't say built the Belvedere, battled with the Belvedere, remade the Belvedere.
Yeah, it's ignorance is bliss, they say, don't they? I knew the canopy was an issue that needed dealing with, but because I've vac formed canopies before, I didn't think it would cause me any problems. Also, I want to get into the 3D side of things, and I thought this would be a good subject to start that, because out of all the Airfix vintage kits so far, this is the worst.
Yeah.
And in case if I can get mastery of the software, and thankfully Matt Ball printed the parts out for me, then you know what I mean. It just adds another string to your bow, and as I said before in all the videos and other people, it opens up a world to you. But yeah, it was a canopy that's the crux of the kit, and it's a bit of shit. Airfix didn't do anything with that, because I think of all the vintage kits, as I said, a split canopy, an incorrect one at that, even someone like me, what's the point? What's the point? You know what I mean? Unless you're going to amend the issues it's got there, I don't really see, unless someone supplies aftermarket products. I've sent the actual plugs to Matt Ball, so you know whether he uses them to create some more VAT form piece sell on, I don't know. But I'm led to believe there is another manufacturer releasing the Belvedere in 1/2 scale and maybe 1/48. So the rumours go anyway.
Yes, it's oh god, who is it? Oh god, it's one of the Ukrainian manufacturers. I can't remember.
I should know. I've typed it in enough times. Yeah, I'm trying to think.
Me too. I even mentioned it on the video.
It's gone. It's just gone. Yeah. But is that a definite? Is that a definite? Is that?
Well, they've got it on there. I mean, again, it's a bit like you said before. Nothing is certain until they're actually there
on the shelves.
In the plastic. Micromere, that's the one.
Micromere, that's right. Yeah. Old age, Alex. It's a painful thing. Yeah. So and with that on the horizon, I don't know. I really don't know why Airfix released it. I don't know. As I said, I just wish they'd have, because they did it with the Oster, didn't they? They retooled the glaze parts.
Yep. So the Oster and the Bond Bug, they had lost the transparencies, or the transparency toolings for both of those, and so they reverse engineered them, which I think is great. You know, it's fantastic that they did that. The Bond Bug, which I still need to pick up. I had a bunch, but they didn't arrive when Hornby should have sent them, so I ended up cancelling them, because it's like, well, if they're 3 months late, everyone's going to have bought it anyway, so what's the point in having it in the shop? So I need to get one for myself, though, so I don't miss it. But and the Oster, you know, they did the nice little piece in the Airfix online magazine thing, whatever they call it, where they showed it wasn't symmetrical in the original tooling, so they made it asymmetrical so that it would fit perfectly. So you know, they paid real attention to detail.
Yeah.
And to have then not done it, and the Oster is what, £6, I think.
Right.
The Bond Bug is, well, I can't remember. It's like about 10 or 11, something like that.
Yeah.
The Belvedere is 15.99 RRP, and it's just been released. And it's like, yeah, it's got contragraph decals, so I understand that, but to me, that's like putting, you know, pearls on a
on a string.
It's just like, that's not going to make the kit. So you're going to need to do a lot before you get to that point. So
all the nice decals are going to help.
oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Greg.
Yeah, I lost you there as well. Yeah, yeah. All the nicest decals in the world, or decals, ain't going to help anybody with the parts in the box.
No.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, with the legwork and maybe the rotor heads, plastic card is there for you, sort of thing. But as I said, the glazed part is the focal point, and I don't know what the cost implications would have been for Airfix to retool that. I don't know, but I think it would have helped, gone a long way with the sale of the kit. And I think with reading comments and getting feedback, I think there'll be a lot of model shop people with a lot of this stock left on the shelf. And the only people who may buy it, maybe because they're slightly ignorant of it, you know, they bought vintage before. But yeah, I don't know. Personally, me, if I was releasing it, that's the first thing I would have done, is retool the cockpit, the glazed parts. But,
yeah. So this kind of brings me to the because I still want to talk something about what you did with the kit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
One of the things that came up a lot in the comments, which is kind of one of the things I want to talk about tonight, and as always, guys in the chat, if you've got any questions for either of us, please put capital letters question or comment or something so that I can actually see it, because otherwise I just get involved in the chat with the guests and will go off on my usual tangents, and I don't look at any of that. So make it nice and clear and eye-catching for me. But so there's definitely, I would say, 15 to 20% of the comments, I'm kind of spitballing that, went on along the lines of, and I'm going to paraphrase, kind of lump a whole bunch of them together, of, you were a bit unfair on this kit, Alex, because this is real modeling and anybody should be able to take basically a shit kit and make something of it, and that proves your skill as a modeler. Where do you stand on that one, Greg? People will probably know where I stand already.
Well, as I said, if I hadn't had the tenacity to get to grips with the 3D modelling bits, let's concentrate on the resin parts. I would have used plastic card and bits and things like that, which would have been far more involved, especially when you've got symmetrical things. You create one side, you've got to create the other side.
Yeah.
Wheels, perhaps I could look the spares, found something, maybe made some resin parts. At the time, that was floating around in my head. And as I said, the canopy, because I've vac formed parts before, I didn't think I'd have any issues. I thought, yeah, I can do that. I can make a plug, vac form it. That's half the battle. The worst bit is going to be updating the rotor head, the hubs, and the leg guard, the undercarriage. But as I said in the video, it was the other way around. The resin parts were a dream, you know, to create and print out fine. The canopy, because I've got a platform machine, I don't know what the issue was. I used to do it in the oven, the wife's oven. So I had this homemade vac form machine, and it's quite a large one. I don't know why I was getting these webs, these rib marks, you know, and in the end, it defeated the object of printing a canopy, or a vac forming canopy in one piece. I ended up cannibalizing the parts, which, as I said in the video, wasn't the way to go. But yeah, sometimes you get that with kits. You think these are going to be easy, and they trip you up all the time. And that's the thing with modeling. It's just the way it goes. I sit there doing these things and thinking, why isn't this working? It should work. I've done it before. What's the issue? And sometimes in modeling, that's the way it falls. And it fell with the Belvedere. As I said, especially with the canopy, which is where most of the time was taken up. And with the resin parts, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, that's the thing, isn't it? It's like, because, I mean, how many plugs did you end up making in the end? Because
I made two. And the second one worked slightly better. But I was still having the issues. And in the end, I got to that stage where I'm thinking, stuff this. I'll just use the bits that I've made, cannibalize something together. It will do. But as I said, it wasn't really way to go. I wanted it in one piece. And as I've said, I've sent those plugs on to Matt Ball, and if he wishes to use them, sell them on, that's up to him. I've told him he can do whatever he wants. The same with the resin parts as well. He's got the actual files. So, you know, it's up to him whether he wants to sell them on, do something with them, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, the reason why I didn't make them accessible, is it STL files? I can't remember now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Worldwide sort of thing, which I could have done, is that you're always going to get some sort of comeback. Oh, they're not right, they're not accurate, oh, they don't work. And you've got to remember, I designed these parts for me to use, not for everybody else to use. Mm. If I was going to do that, I'd have concentrated a bit more on how to help the modeler use these parts. For me, I just wanted a basic shape, and I can do the fudged workarounds to myself. I can do that. Models out there, if they got these resin parts, I think they would struggle. So what I'm trying to say is they weren't really meant for public release, and I didn't want all that comeback. I didn't want all that. I don't need it. You know, I don't really, you know what I mean. And the other thing is that I wish I'd have created more resin parts. But as I said in the video, where do you stop?
Yeah.
You know, I wish I'd have created the rotor blades as well as the hub. The blades wouldn't have taken 2 minutes to create, and it would have said a lot more faff. But initially at the time, because hindsight's a wonderful thing, initially at the time, I just wanted to make sure I got the circuit and the process worked. But yeah, as I said to other people, I could have done the blades, I might as well do the fuselage, you know, for what it takes, you know.
Yeah.
And then that defeats the object of making the Airfix Belvedere.
Yeah.
So it's just when I was saying,
you have just made a kit.
yeah, and it's like, you know, you might as well throw it in the bin. I mean, the other vintage kits, say like the Super Freight, I'm trying to think of the ones. The Skyvan's a very good kit. I wish they would really re-release that again. That's for its age, it's a very good kit. The Super Freighter, very basic kit, but it can be built. You know, you can sand the canopy, polish it up. You don't need much more extra work. You know, with a bit of care, it makes a nice kit. You know, and whereas the Belvedere, like I said, I had it sat there, and I don't know why I bought it, because it doesn't interest me one bit, but it sat there. And a few of the other models says, you know, build it. And yeah, and thankfully I've got over it now.
I can see the trauma that it's left.
Well, it's one of those things, because if I wasn't doing a video build, it had gone in the bin.
Yeah. But
it got to the stage where I'll get away with it. It looks okay. It's not brilliant, but it looks okay. I've got this far. If I hadn't been doing a video or YouTube video, it would have just been in the bin straight away. But with all the effort of videoing it and the VAT form, I had to give it that extra push, and it was a struggle. It really was a struggle.
Yeah, and I think
all the vintage kits I build, as I said, I don't know whether there are other Airfix vintage kits that are worse, but I can't think of any. But no, I think I've reached the pain barrier, and the rest should be easy now with the other vintage kits. He says, touch wood.
I think there were a few people that made comments actually about which might be worse. I think one nomination was the Storch. These are Storch that Airfix do or did.
Okay, all right.
The big hovercraft, not the little prototype one they've already done. The big passenger one. Oh, that chap, yes.
Yeah.
Which actually, I mean, if they release that as a vintage classic, I would buy that, because I remember my dad building it. Which
it's sorry, go on.
No, I was just going to say, which kind of brings me to I guess my point and my theme kind of for tonight. is, and some people have made some comments. Julian here has said, if a kit is that bad, cut your losses and make a crash diorama, because it's not then supposed to look good. Michael said, I think the quality of vintage kits are crapshoot. A lot depends on the age of the tooling. I've seen a lot of older kits that are of high quality in the hands of a good modeler. But for me, there's two things with vintage kits. One is, why are you actually making it? So is it for, and again, this comes back to, why do you model in the first place? Most of us model, I think, because we enjoy it, because it's fun. We also like to make, and people get different things out of, well, yeah, people get different things out of fun. So some people just want to stick plastic together. Some people like the painting or the weathering. Some people like to create a really accurate kit. But in all of those, I look at that Belvedere and think, well, it doesn't tick any of those boxes. And to actually get to the point where, you can make a good model of it, is, as I think, as you've demonstrated, where do you stop in terms of replacing parts? Because essentially you're then scratch building a kit, scratch building the actual thing. So it's not a kit anymore. You're not even using the framework of what has been provided, because you've changed it that much. So what is then the point of the kit? You may have well has just scratch built it anyway. So
I think, sorry, go on.
And then I guess the other thing is, for me, a really valid reason to build these kits is nostalgia, right? Which I think is, a fair place to start from. It's why I built the Bloodhound, because I remember doing that as a kid. I think it's a cool looking missile. And I thought, well, I'll actually put some extra, use the knowledge and some of the skills I've accumulated over the decades to try and make something a little bit more out of it. Because look at that Land Rover; it hasn't even got glazing in it. There's no interior.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, have those little bits, and that's not much.
Yeah, I mean, the one I'm always after is the Sam missile with the truck. But I remember the Bloodhound set with the Hercules. Remember my dad building that, and even though the glazing, basic kit with a bit of care, you don't need to add anything to it. The paintwork should show, what you could do with these basic kits. And the reason why I got into it is because I was getting a hit. But the reason why I got into it is because I've got a stash of them in the cupboard here. I'm not getting any younger, and I need to be building. And the other thing with the Airfix vintage kits is the subject. Very hard to get the same subject. Yeah. And with the basic kit there, with most of the vintage classics or vintage kits, there's a good model there, and with a little bit of work and a good paint job. And as you said, the other reason why I did it was that I was bringing these skills that I didn't have as a kid to this subject. And I wanted to see, out of interest, what you could do with these kits. They're not going to win any prizes in any show, but you can make a good kit out of some of these subjects. And that's what I was trying to put across, really. With a bit of care, a bit of talent, you can make a good kit. And as I said, the subject's always the, if someone's got a better super freighter, then I wouldn't have bothered.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's that's part of it, right? If the Micromere kit, because the reason I did the Belvedere was I went to I can't remember what it's called, the Western Supermare show, which was held at the Helicopter Museum, and they got a Belvedere there. And actually seeing it in person and thinking, oh, the Airfix are about to re-release this, the vintage classic. And so I took a whole bunch of photos of it, which was one of the reasons, when I got the kit out of the box, it's like, this is nothing like the actual thing at all. And it's like, oh, actually, they created a prototype, which what they made 5 of,
yeah.
And then they converted all those prototypes anyway to HC1 standards. So it's like, well, so I can't do, I had this idea of having it as like a little Borneo kind of, diorama or something, or an Aden Crisis one, but it's like, no, you can't do that because it's not that aircraft, not out of the box, and even the cartograph decals that they've supplied, are basically an update of the original ones, which are for the prototype aircraft. Yeah. They're very nice, but it's very limited, So
because the original idea was to have something slung underneath, create a diorama with a bit of clear perspex. That was the intention, because that's what everybody wanted to see. But I got to this stage where, you know, I was just looking to you know, to get it done, sort of thing. And one of my pet hates is not finishing. You know, as I've mentioned this before, it's just a bit of plastic, and I'm not letting it beat me. Because it's a simple kit. There's not a lot to it. You know, I mean, I sanded all the surface detail. That's another thing. The surface detail. Okay, people say the raised detail shouldn't be there, but it was fine enough. You could use it. But with the amount of work you need to blend and sand in, you've got to take it all off. Yeah. I'm trying to think of the other kit. Freiheit was like that. Some beautiful surface detail, but it all needed sanding off because it's a crude kit, simple as that. But it, like I said, I'm trying to think of the other. Was it the tri-motor? You know, they're great subjects, and if you can bring those knowledge and experience, and with all the modern materials to that basic kit, why shouldn't you build a reasonable kit? As I said, it's not going to win any shows. You're not going to, you know, I'm not going to add super detail. I just want to see what you can get from a vintage bit of plastic. Now, one thing I will avoid: a frog. I won't go anywhere near them. They really do. They really are basic kits. But
you see, I was gifted a frog by the Firefly, fairy Firefly, by a viewer. Built that. It's actually quite a good kit, you know. And it's like, yeah, it's basic, but actually the interior of the Firefly, you can't see an awful lot. It wasn't very big. I've got some photo etch, like generic RAF seats. So to actually put the rear shelf in, put a couple of radios in, put that in because that's the most visible bit, and then the same in the front was, you know, a couple of bits of plastic card and the seats, and that's it. And then the rest of it's actually pretty nice, you know. Yeah, you have to open up like a couple of the ports and, you know, put a grill in the radiator and stuff, but not massive things, you know, not redesigning anything. You know, the actual basic shape of it looks, you know, the fit is actually pretty good. So yeah, it was fine.
I had the
very individual kits though, aren't they? You know, but in terms of consistency, I'm not sure it was there.
Yeah, I had the Wyvern and the Shackleton and the Civics, and thankfully they've all been replaced. But I've got the Sea Venom. It's what they used to call a special bag. So it came just in a bag, no decals, no instructions. This was back in the late 80s. It's molded in bright pink. So they're ex-Frog, but I think they came from Russia. So but it's not a bad kit. It came with a pink canopy, pink tinged canopy. So you know, at some point I would have to backform that, but it sat there in the corner sort of thing. But
you could do it as a Valentine's special or something.
Yeah. But it seems shape-wise, it's caught the character, and it is. You look at the wheels, I think they definitely need replacing, and the undercarriage needs replacing, and the thickness of the leg guard needs replacing. But as you said, the overall shape seems okay, but I don't know. So yeah, I'm sticking with Airfix for the time being anyway. So yeah, he says I've got loads of modern kits that I need to get my teeth into at some point. But yeah,
I think the worst actually in terms of old kits are Revell. Revell kits, because I mean, but even at the time.
Sorry, don't you find that there's some great subjects with Revell?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I remember as a child, so this is in the 70s. I remember the V2, and it's a really weird scale. It's like 196 scale or something.
That's right, yeah. With on its carriage and all that, yeah.
And it's got the whole carrier, yeah. And as a kid, I was like, wow, this is, and I remember it brought me to tears. It was the first kit I think that I hadn't ever finished. You know, because there was just, I remember at the time, because you know, it's one of those traumatic childhood things that prints in your memory. There's just so much flash, and like the parts were so brittle, the small parts, that they would break trying to clean them up and stuff. And I say clean them up. This is as a kid, you know. I mean, I think about some of the stuff where it's just like, we're not talking about little bits of flash, you know, joins and seams. We're talking about big plates connecting things that you have to cut out. And I thought, I remembered that, and I actually saw it at a show or somewhere anyway. I bought that kit and thought, I'm going to come back to it. And I opened it up and looked at it and thought, nah. Because it's just, again, it's just like the flash between parts. You just think, there is no point in trying to clean that up. I might as well just use wire to recreate those, the grab handles on the side of the.
Yeah,
it
did work, didn't it? It did actually work,
yeah,
didn't it?
all worked,
yeah. Or it tried to work. It was, I mean, as a kid, it was.
Mine got glued together and just didn't. It was.
As a kid, I did love those monogram with some of their 1/48 scale, their Trojan and things like that, where the undercarriage actually went underneath and took the leg guard with it. They released them some years ago, the Grumman Avenger as well, where we had them working mechanisms as a kid. I mean, look at it now and think, yeah, but as a kid, I loved it. But yeah, I don't know. As a kid, I was just too busy bashing them out, and and like I said, you struggle fitting. But as a kid, you're not bothered. You know what I mean? You just try to get this thing built so you can play with it. But yeah, and I think with the V, because I love the V2. I think there's new toolkits out there anyway with the V2 and the trailer, isn't there, available now? So, but it's one of my favourite subjects as well. I do love rockets or missiles. That's why I like some of the monogram stuff, like Nike missile.
Oh yeah, like Hercules, yeah.
Snark. I subjects like that. So yeah, and because as you said, they're very crude and basic kits. But the basis is there, and it's a subject that grabs me. You know what I mean? I'm willing to. The enthusiasm there to do something with it. And as long as it looks like a Snark or a Nike, I'm not too bothered too much about accuracy, how accurate it is. But yeah, and I've got another Airfix vintage subject on the go, but it's a ship this time. But I really must get into something a bit more modern, just to ease. Because I'm trying to think now. There's nothing much other than the hovercraft maybe, and the Enterprise, the car ferry.
Okay.
Heralded for the Enterprise. I quite fancy doing that. But I'm trying to think of any other vintage Airfix kits. No, I mean it seems like the SM-79, the Italian tri-motor bomber.
Yeah.
I won't go anywhere near that because you've got the Italieri kit.
Yeah, exactly.
It's sat there. It'll never get done. There's no point. All the other, that said, that all the other subjects I've done is mainly because you can't get hold of them, and I think that'll pique someone's interest. Nobody else that makes that model at time of speaking, but yeah. So it is the availability of the subject and just showing people, you can't get the subject. Let's see what we can do with it using what I know.
Yeah, and I think those are so for me, the two real reasons to get an Airfix Classic are exactly that. One is nostalgia. You remember building it back in the day. You just want to experience that. And usually it's a bit of a shock. You think I didn't. You realize how much you glossed over as a kid. You're just like, really?
Remember the old. Sorry, go on.
No, as I say, or it is to buy it and say, okay, I did this before, but now I'm going to challenge myself to see what I can make of it from that.
Because I did like what they call them now, the airliners. Was it Sky, the Viscount, and the TriStar, and the. I quite fancy doing some of those sort of things. But I always remember as a kid having putting the decals on and then wait for them to dry and then pop the windows out with the plastic and it looking terrible. Or tearing it away. But the Vanguard, I've got a soft spot for the Vanguard, and I wouldn't mind maybe at some point. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know.
Well, the one I fancy doing next is I think it's the next release they've got in Vintage Classics range is the Hawker P whatever it is 11 whatever the Harrier prototype basically.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
that's coming. Which again, it's a subject that is of the interest there. I never did it. I'm sure it'll be wrong in some way. People will. Again, I'm not too fussed about the super accuracy bit. I mean, like the Bloodhound. The Bloodhound is too short. It's really
Is it?
1/76 scale rather than
Right.
1/72. It's a Bloodhound 1 rather than Bloodhound 2. They were almost identical apart from the length, and it's short anyway. So if you want to make it longer, you can make it longer. But it's like that doesn't bother me as much as I can put some gribbly bits and make it look nice. The fact that it might be
Yeah,
3 mm
that's it.
too short.
I wouldn't have known about that. But have you ever seen the one in Wales, Recreation Yard? He's got a bloodhound sat in the.
No, I saw the one
Oh yeah,
again at the helicopter museum. They've got one out in it's just out in the grounds.
yeah. I was driving to Wales, sort of thing, from Glastonbury, and driving past. The next thing poking over the hedge was this bloodhound. So I stopped and said, "Is it for sale? And how much do you want for it?" And he says, "No." He says, "I've had someone offer £20,000 for it, and I still don't want to sell it." I says, "Okay, but yeah, it's an original bloodhound. A lot of wear and tear with the weather, but yeah, the basics there. Yeah, yeah. I mean, the 1/24 scale Airfix kits, they were built because of the childhood building them back then, and they're not bad kits. I think the Stuka and the Hurricane are the best of the bunch. I think the Spitfires are worst. But I've just bought the
109 was a bit ropey as well.
Yeah, very basic. Along with the Spitfire, they're very crude kits. But 190 in 1/24 scale, subject-wise, was hard to. I don't. Does anyone show 109 in 1E version in 1/24?
If they do, it'll probably be Trumpeter, I imagine.
Yeah, yeah, but yeah, yeah. The one I won't do is the P51, the Mustang. Terrible.
Which
kit.
is the one they're releasing this year, isn't it?
Is it? Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No. The Harrier was a good kit, and they've released that many times in various guises, but yeah.
And a lot of parts of that Harrier were used by special effects. I can't remember the special effects guys, but who did a lot of the Jerry Anderson stuff for like Space 1999 and things. They used a lot of Harrier parts on those, and the I think it's the Apollo as well.
Yeah, the module. Yeah, you can see on the. Is it the MPC kit?
I think they used the Airfix ones.
Yeah, on the is it 2 foot long? Is it MPC?
Yes. Yeah.
And you can see this side of the the Apollo thing stuck on the side, sort of thing. They've actually kept the original. What they call them now. I'm trying to think of the little bits they call that stick on these things, but yeah, and it's great seeing. What was the other one now? Was it the Tiger vents? Yeah,
right.
The vents around. Yeah, it's great when people point these out to you. Think, oh God, yeah, I see it now. Yeah. That's a good kit. The lunar module. It's a very good kit for its age, with this split moon base. They released that some years ago as well. But now you've got Dragon and things like that who, have surpassed those now, so there's no point. But
yeah. So Trumpeter make a 1/24 BF 109, but they make the G and the K.
Yeah.
So the later ones, not the E.
I have never seen the E, but all the other variants, because I built the Trumpeter K, the later variant, the tricycle.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, and it's a good kit. I'm always a bit wary of Trumpeter because they always have issues with, even for me, for accuracy. It's always, the canopies are beautiful, crisp, clear, nice and sharp, but they're totally wrong. The 1/36 scale Lightning, BAC Lightning, English Lecture Lightning, whatever you want to call it, the canopy is completely wrong. That's why I put it with the hood up, because it goes down. It's too bulbous. It's completely, the framing's all wrong as well.
Yeah.
Always, but I mean, the Chinook was pretty good, but it was the only game in town, so yeah.
That's the 48 scale.
35th, 32nd, was it?
Oh, wow.
35th? Yeah,
35th.
yeah.
I
So
know somebody bought a 48 scale one at the shop, and I'm just like, good God, that's going to be big. 48 scale, but a 35th. Wow.
it's impressive, very impressive. Yeah, I had the Chinook because I worked on Boscombe Down some years ago, but I've got a soft spot for the Chinook. But yeah, I must try the Airfix one as well, the new tooled one.
It's a nice kit.
Yeah.
I did do an unboxing of it, but I haven't actually put it out because I thought everybody's done an unboxing of it. So I actually compared it to the Teleri kit, did an unboxing side by side.
Really?
And it's
Really?
it's better, and it's about 50% more expensive than the Teleri. And basically you see that in the kit. So it's like, well, if you want a cheap kit, the Teleri one's okay. It's what Airfix used to box. If you want to spend an extra 15 quid, the Airfix one is better. So you pay your money, it takes your choice.
Yeah. Right.
But I think actually that's one of the kits that is going up in September as well, which surprised me. I think quite a few of the new kits, kits that are released this year or last year, are ones that are being included in the price increase, which is like, okay.
By how much? A great deal, or
it varies a lot.
Yeah.
Depending.
That's the other thing we're doing these YouTube videos is that I desperately want to do the 48 scale Buccaneer, the RAF version. I desperately want to do the Sea King, but every man and his dog's done it, so why should and I'm itching to, I don't know, really, especially the Buccaneer. It's a kit, top of my wish list, and it came out. It's a beautiful kit, got all the fantastic schemes you could ever want there, and I won't buy it because everybody else has built it. Yeah, it's stupid, isn't it? Doesn't make any sense, but there you go.
Well, I mean, it's funny because so I asked. Again, we're going off on tangents, people. Apologies.
Yes,
that's the way that this always works. So I put a poll out. I've done it a couple of times. I did it a while ago. What would you like to see on the channel? And all of you good people voted. And one of the top things that came out was full builds. They're the lowest performing videos I ever do.
Well, I used to do it in stages, stage 1, 2, and 3, go into detail. I didn't get the hits. It was a waste of time. So by compressing them, making them short, I mean, there's obviously exception to the case. There's always somebody who says, no, I want an in-depth detailed view. But you look at the views and the hits, that's the format they want, compressed, fast going, and you know what I mean, and the end result. So I mean, the Chinook must have been what? Was it 13 stages? Something stupid like that. And because I went into great depth about it all, but I wasted the time. And it's funny how you gear your modelling up because of what people want to see. You're fashioning how you're thinking all the time, right? Are they going to want to see this? Are they going to want to say that? It's strange. So I keep to the format, I keep to that, and it seems to work anyway. I mean, but it would be nice because I could get a video out each week if I did it in stages. Whereas I've got to wait to finish the build, edit the whole damn thing, vocals, all that crap. And by the time I've seen this 6 or 7 times after making sure it's right and it's edited right, I don't see it again. I really don't. People ask you questions. When you did this and you did that, and I think I've got to go back to watch the video, but I don't want to because I'll cringe. I don't want to hear my voice, and I don't want to see my. So and you think, well, I've got to because at least they've made the comment and they're interested, and I have to do that, for their sake. It's only, it's only courtesy that you do that, but
it's one of the most interesting bits. I think is because I think we all say the same thing. If you ask any modeling YouTuber, you know, about editing. We spend so much time editing, and like you say, you go over, so you do a first edit, you know, especially on an unboxing, I've kind of got that down to a pat, but like on a build and stuff, you know, you're never quite sure what you videoed. So I always have a screen in front of me showing what the view is from my camera. So I kind of, you know when I'm going out of focus. So, but even so, like the one bit that you really wanted to show is the bit that, you know, you've strayed off out of camera shot, or it's wobbly, or you didn't do it long enough, or whatever it is, you know. So you have to go over and you're re-editing, and then you go, people don't realize how many times you have to see the same bit and hear, as you said, your voice saying the same thing over and over again till the time you just want to shut up and just get on with it. It's like,
because it's funny, because I think I sound okay, but when you hear your voice and people hear me, you know, oh yeah, I sound like that. And the same like when people take pictures, you think, that's not me. I don't look like that, do I? So well, but yeah, it's cringeworthy, and there'll come a point where, you know, I've had enough of this now, and I just want to do modeling for myself, you know, and there'll be at some point where the channel will, hey, you know what I mean? I can't do this forever, but so I'm trying to think of any other classics that Airfix might release in the future that they haven't. There's the is it the Dornier, the flying pencil?
you see, I don't think they'll release Dornier, because if you look at what they've retooled, I don't think they're going to re-release the stuff they've retooled. So like the Mosquito, you know, they had the old classic of that, but they've done both the Bomber and the Recon versions. So they're going to do that again. The Dornier, they've retooled as well. You know, Lancaster. Well, that's a good thing, though. The classic was not a great kit. You know, I mean, I was kind of disappointed. So with Moss Beyond the Box, we kind of did our Mostradamus episode, you know, our predictions for the year. And one of the things I said I'd really like to see Airfix do is retool in the same way they've done the Blenheim and the Mosquito, a 1/72 scale Handley Page Hampton, you know.
Yeah,
and they re-released, and they did the Airfix, you know, Vintage Classic, and it's like, no, I've got two of those, and it's not a great kit. It's like
that's the other thing that puts me off, is when they mold it in black plastic.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think about that black plastic, or that silver stuff. It's very hard to. I don't know. Yeah. I find it hard to with anyway, but
I just find any color actually other than grey, I'm not a fan of. Like white. You remember the old Sunderland when they molded it in white plastic? It's like that wasn't good. I think you don't get the contrast.
Yeah. I mean, maybe the short Sterling. Maybe Airfix re-release that with all the bomb trucks, you know, and the little tractor. You know,
you saying that, I'm just thinking that would be a really nice one for them to retool, wouldn't it? Short Sterling.
Because the Italian kit's good, but it's just so crude. So the surface detail. Yeah, it's a bit like when they released the Sunderland, you know, everybody's going great, you know, at last, and you've got this very crude surface detail, and you know, and you think, well, what do you do with it? Do you fill it all in, or what? And the same with the Sterling, but that may be another thing that Airfix, you know what I mean? Because as I said, with it's basically a good kit. It's all there. You know, you can create a good model from it, and they've got that nice little, as I said, bomb trolley and the tractor. You know, maybe that'd be one for the future. Maybe I'm just trying to think of. There's quite a few in because they released the Beaver, didn't they? Did they have it in Beaver?
I must have missed that one.
I'm sure they did.
They did the Boomerang, which is apparently horribly inaccurate, but it
looks like Boomerang to me. But the Grumman Duck.
Not an aircraft that interests me, so I'm just like, no,
it doesn't bother me. But the Grumman Duck, I've got the original anyway. But Airfix did the Grumman Duck, which is not a bad kit, although I think there's a better one in 1/72 scale out there anyway. But
Yeah, I think I mean, talking about subjects, I think those subjects that Airfix, the unusual stuff, like the Rotodyne, that's not a good kit, but it's the best Rotodyne you can probably get of that age. Because I think Revell did one, didn't they?
Yes, and I can tell you that the Revell one, the side opens up, typical Revell. So the side opens up, and you can see all sorts of internal detail, but it looks completely inaccurate to me. The Airfix one is a better kit, I think, as far as accuracy. But yeah, I try to think, was it some sort of strange scale as well?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, it was.
I don't think it was 1/72.
No, it might be 1/76. Or it was some strange one. It was some strange scale. Anyway, I remember thinking, why? But yeah, I think bigger than the Airfix one. I flogged it on anyway because it was once you've built one Rotodyne, I don't want to build any more. Frog built one. Frog released one.
Oh, it's Frog, was it?
No, Frog and Revell. There's 3 Rotodynes in the history of Rotodyne models. So you had a Frog one, and a Revell one, and the Airfix one. Yeah.
But I think those kind of unusual subjects, like the Super Freighter, those things that other companies, I suppose it's those classics of British aviation, which is kind of why I was surprised when Micromere said they were doing a Belvedere, because it's like, I think it's kind of a bit sad in a way that we have to look to, the former Eastern Europe to get new tools of, these sort of stages in British aviation history.
Would that be? Are they a limited run sort of kit? Are they like?
I don't think Micromere are.
No, so it'd be a proper all singing, dancing, bit of plastic. Right.
We'll see.
Yeah, because I mean the Wasp is a great subject. I know there's a new one, set to scale one being released, and it's a fantastic kit. Looking at it, it's only tiny, but the Airfix one, from what I can remember, was pretty good. A good kit at the time, but as I said, this other release has superseded it. But I mean, subjects like that, a Scout or a Wasp in 1/48 scale would be great.
Yeah. I'd quite like the what is it, the Crusader, the 1/76 scale Crusader.
Yeah,
I remember doing that as a kid, and it builds together. It looks nice. I mean, whether
is that the tank or the plane?
It's a little tank. It's the Crusader.
Tank,
I think it's the Mark. Ooh, I think it's one of the later Marks. It's got the 6-pounder rather than the 2-pounder, I think. But I remember that.
Yeah, I can remember when that first came out because my dad built it. I remember, that tan camouflage with green splodges all over it, and along with the Rommel's Grief, is it the half track? Yeah, that's Airfix. I said around the 70s in that they built some great kits. The Islander,
Right.
Great little plane, great little kit. I've got a couple there in a stash. They came in various guises. The Philippine Army, and then they had the Isle of Wight version. But you look at the surface detail, it's beautiful. A great kit to be built there.
What about Airfix classics you think that shouldn't be released?
The Belvedere?
Belvedere, I think the Gazelle, they released that to death, the little 72nd scale Gazelle.
Right. I remember building it as a kid, but I'm trying to think now how good or bad it is. But because as I said, I think
it was fragile, it was basic, and there's a lot of glazing. I don't think that's a good combo for vintage classic.
Well, I don't know. You look at, say, like the when Airfix brought out the Jaguar, was it 76 or something like that? And you've got the Italier one, you've got the Hausgau one, and really, when you compare them to the Airfix one, they all have their good and bad points. It makes you think, well, should I just build the Airfix one because it's just as good in some areas as the Hausgau one and as the Italier one.
Is that the 48 scale one?
1/2 scale.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. The 1/48 scale, was that Heller's Mouldings, or did Heller?
No, it was Airfix's tooling, but it was one that Heller still has.
Yeah,
So
there's something wrong with the canopy. Something wrong with the canopy on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's just a personal gripe I have with it. Yeah.
But I think the yeah, because that was that time. Oh God, who was it? Hallmark Cards owned them for a time, didn't it? Their hobby division.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
And then they were bought by, was it Hobbyco?
I can't remember now.
They also owned Heller, and they moved all of the production to their Heller factory because it was underutilized. And then I think some of the toolings got mixed up, and then when they actually went back to, selling off Airfix compared to Heller, not all of the tools went back to their proper prospective owners.
No, I think yeah, some are lost and some are damaged as well. But I mean, with Kitty Hawk, I suppose that's the best tooled Jaguar at the moment. I don't know what it goes together like. I know their MiG-29 Foxbacks are horrendous kit as well as inaccurate, but surface detail, you can't complain. But yeah.
Yeah, so the Austro-Antarctic, obviously, they've done very recently. I don't know whether they have a lot of the cars they used to do. I mean, I remember doing the, whether actually they were Airfix toolings. Oh, okay, the Austin Healey Sprite.
Yeah.
I didn't realise. Originally a Gunsango kit.
Oh, right.
Didn't know that.
Because they released the, was it 1/24 scale Bentley?
Oh, but then they did a 32nd scale one, which was an original Airfix tooling in '61. That's confusing.
Yeah, I think they were all 32nd scale, all the vintage cars. I'm trying to think now. They did a range. And at the time,
they did a 24 scale one, which was the Gunsango kit. So that's why it's
odd scale, yeah.
Odd scale, yeah. Austin Maxi, 32nd scale.
Yeah, that's a subject you won't see. Anybody else produce? Yeah, maybe. I don't know whether they've still got the molds, whether Airfix could release that. That'd be interesting to see. Yeah, as you said, it would be the glazed parts, where you would struggle with those. But yeah, interesting subject. They did loads, did Airfix? I'm trying to think of them now. They did loads. They had quite a range. But I mean, even their figures, the Anne Boleyn and the.
I would love them to do the bird series. They did the Kingfisher.
Yeah, I remember them. Yeah, the Robins and the Blue Tits. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah,
I would love those. Again, because my dad did everything. So I remember, I don't know whose kit it was. I should probably look it up sometime. But like an old musket, but it was like a
pirate's.
No, it was like a Middle Eastern one because it kind of had scrolling and stuff across it. And I remember it was so big, the box had to go behind the sofa because it was like this great big long box. So I don't know whether it was 1-to-1 scale or something, when you could still buy 1-to-1 gun models.
I find those fascinating. I think Pyro used to make muskets and sort of 16th century. The Boscombe Down model show a month ago now, whenever it was, and someone had bought, as you said, it looked like an older Eastern rifle with all the engraved and all that. I think it said Pyro on it. I'm not too sure. And I thought, if I'd have saw that, I'd have bought it. And I was yakking to somebody, and I'm thinking, I just want to talk to this bloke and see where he's got that from, because I'd have snapped it up. But yeah, I thought I was pig sick actually. Yeah, but I do love stuff like that. And at one time, it's quite popular in the '70s, like '70s sort of subjects. the flintlocks, things like that. And it makes you wonder whether, they'll ever be released, because I would buy them and build them. I mean, they'd be very
I think
cool.
now the problem is that you'd have people, they'd probably be illegal because.
Really?
I imagine the police would have an issue because, even like water pistols have to be have orange bits on them and stuff, don't they?
I know, orange or blue, yeah. Which is stupid, really, isn't it? But
yeah, it is.
But those subjects, things like that, I forget about sort of thing. At that time, and the modelling was added in the mid to late 70s. There was all sorts of fascinating subjects. Oil rigs. Trying to think. I remember getting a small oil rig from saving up the coupons on cornflakes packets. And great little kit, and all sorts of things like that you just you don't see anymore now. So, I mean, was it Renewal who did the nuclear power station model of a nuclear power station? I think it was Renewal, and they had all sorts of strange out there subjects that I always keep my eye out from, but I never see them. But perhaps because they fetch such high prices. But yeah,
I remember my dad did a couple of naval ones. He did, I think it was the Revell cutaway nuclear sub.
Yeah, I remember that. The skipjack. Yeah.
I've got one. I've got one.
Have you? I can't remember the skipjack or the thresher. I can't remember now, but yeah. I always wanted that. It looked fascinating in the box. Yeah.
And the other one that I loved as a kid, I played with it so much, was the Jacques Cousteau exploration vessel with all the little
sub and the little sharks and the little I had that. Hours in the bath. So I remember that. I remember building that.
So I think, I mean, for nostalgia, that's great, but also these are really unusual subjects.
Yeah. Which I think people out there in YouTube land have found fascinating.
Yeah,
absolutely. Which is why people should be building these. Makes, I think the Jacques Cousteau one, I'm sure I've seen it loads of times. It's always available. But as I said, I remember as a kid thinking quite nicely detailed, even the sharks. With a pair of eyes now, I don't know what it, whether that be the same opinion, but great subject.
Yeah, I remember the nuclear
little resin diorama with all. Yeah, that's right. Little scuba divers. Yeah, it was. That said, that I mean, even I remember even buying mid 80s a dinosaur in a bottle with cavemen. There's one with cowboys, Indians. There's underwater one, and two plastic halves to make the bottle. I mean, as a kid, you didn't think about the seam line around it. You know what I mean? It was just, but you don't do that as a kid. But the subjects were amazing and plentiful, but just don't see things like that anymore. And that's why I think people out there in making models for YouTube, should be looking at these subjects and bringing them to light, showing people. It doesn't matter whether how good it is, but it's bringing these subjects to light and seeing them built up. And as you said, it's a nostalgia thing. I remember that. I'm going to watch that. I'm going to watch that being built, and that. It's going to be so many markers. I remember that now. As I said, the subject, especially American, like I said, Renewal, Revell, Monogram, the subjects, and were amazing. Were amazing. Just trying to think with a big, was it a huge missile and a massive truck. And you've got these horrendous figures. It was 1/35th or 1/36th scale, horrendous figures. Remember the First World War that Revell did, the Sopwith Camel, the triplane. 1/28th scale, I think they were.
Which is an odd scale.
Yeah, once again, but when they're built up, they were nice, sizable models. But they seemed at the time. I don't know what they're like now. At the time, great kits, but yeah. What was
I think the the theme seems to be with the vintage classics that are successful. It does seem to be those that are, you know, the unusual subjects, the ones that are like the Bond Bug. I mean, the Bond Bug was that ridiculous eBay, you know, 300 quid for a not very good kit. I mean, as an actual kit, it's pretty basic. It has some fit issues. As a vintage classic, it was perfectly. But I mean, good God, paying 300 odd quid for it? No. 12 quid is something unusual. Yeah, that's
back in the day, back in the late 80s. I used to visit Malcolm Rowling at King Kit, Shifnal.
Oh yeah,
I used to spend a fortune there. I look back now and I cringe at the money I spent. And I worked at a place. I worked at Wharton on Eurofighter, and when she finished at dinner time, I used to go to the Transport Models shop in Preston, which is sadly gone now. And I used to spend a fortune there. Spend a fortune.
Let's not dwell on how much money we spent on models, Greg. That's
it's
very dark hole to go down.
I've cleansed myself. I've narrowed my collection or shelf stash, whatever you want to call it, to a small size. All fits in one cupboard now. So yeah, but
mine fits in one cupboard if the cupboard's big enough.
Yeah, I used to have a whole room full of kits. It's like a little model shop, and I look back at it. I'll send you the photographs sometimes. It's frightening, it really, because I used to buy 2 of everything, especially when Airfix released their Canberra range, Nimrod, and I'd buy 2 of everything. So I was going to build one, and I know what Airfix like. I'll have one for later on. Stupid, absolutely stupid, absolutely balmy.
The thing with that is if you had the ability to predict the ones that Airfix wouldn't re-release for ages, like the Merlin. The number of people, obviously because of where we are, you know, so the shop's in Wincanton, it's pretty close to Yeovilton. So I get loads of people like mechanics, people who fly them. If you've got a Merlin, it's just like, you can't get them. You just can't get them. You know, I think Italieri did one. I think Revell, which might be the Italieri one, and Airfix, and you can't get any of them. And it's just like, it's a current helicopter. It's in service. It's just like,
it's strange. I built I can't remember, it was the Italia or the Revell 172 scale one, but the Airfix one was 148, was it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was released around the same sort of time as the Operation Herrick stuff, that kind of 2012 to 13 kind of time before the current owners.
Yeah, it is strange, isn't it? It is. What's the other one people are crying out for? The Sea Vixen. They're asking stupid prices now, and you think,
I've got one in the shop that which is my personal one, and I was waiting to put it up. I keep them all up in the loft, and somebody came in and was like, "Oh, is that for sale?" I was just like, "Sadly not."
It's time.
I was thinking, well, how much are you prepared to pay?
Because I used to have the Dynavector Vac-Form kits.
Oh,
the
God,
best
yeah.
in the world. And then when Airfix released the Sea Vixen, I got rid of it. But I kept the TSR2s because they are better than the Airfix one.
Right.
They're more accurate. There's something wrong with the nose and the stance with the Airfix one. The Dynavector one, because I built quite a few of the Vac-Form kits. It's just a lot harder kit to build if you're not used to Vac-Form kits, but far more accurate. So I've got 2. I always keep them. They're just a far superior kit. But the Sea Vixen, Sea Vixen was a beautiful kit, spot on. Far better than the Dynavector.
I've got the Javelin, the 48 scale Javelin that they did.
Yeah.
And the TSR, I've got a TSR2 in both 72nd and 48 scale. I've also got a 172nd TSR2. It's a resin kit. Weighs a ton. Solid resin.
I'm trying to remember it now. It came up with a photo, PE set and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
I got that before Airfix released the. You can never predict, can you? So it's just like you buy these things, and it's just like you don't buy the things that you can't get in the future. It's like, God damn it.
Yeah. I mean, the Scimitar. A lot of people are crying out for the Scimitar. I wish the Airfix released a Scimitar because I had the Skybirds one that I've still got. I'm trying to think the other, was it CMK? Released a couple of variants of the scimitar, but that's another subject that people always ask for. 148 would be a great kit, folded wings. It'd be yeah.
So I've completely neglected the chat, people. I have kept half an eye on it, and I didn't see any questions particularly.
Sorry, blame me.
Oh no, it's but Dave, thank you once again. He has gifted 10 Man's Model Moments membership. I don't know why it always comes up like that. It doesn't do apostrophes, but thank you very much, Dave. Much appreciated. And for those of you who have been gifted those who haven't been channel members, there is a pinned message somewhere on YouTube, I can't remember where, which gives you the Discord code, so you can get into the Discord server. So if you can't find it, just message me on the email, the channel email, which is in the About section, and get you access to that. A few comments have been going down though. One of which, well, good to see, Mark, that why they would tell you that something's arrived at 8:30 p.m. in the evening at a sorting office, I'm not sure, but at least something's happening. That's good to know. Bloody Royal Mail, bane of my life, honestly. Well, not so much my life; it's the customers. That's what I almost missed Craig's question. Question for you, Greg. Did you serve in the RAF?
No, my dad did. So I was what they call a scaly brat. So wherever he was posted in the world, I would go with him. So Borneo, Malta and Lucca, and then Cyprus, Akrotiri. And then we came back to Marham, where he worked on the Victor tankers. He was at Linton on Ouse on the Chipmunks and JPs. And then Lossiemouth on a T-Bird Hunter for some strange reason, tactical weapons unit. So, yeah, I've moved around a bit. So, yeah, it was my dad who was in the RAF, hence he made the models, hence why I make them now, yeah. So
it's funny that my uncle, so we came originally from Lincoln, so lived quite close to RAF Scampton.
Oh yeah.
My uncle was in the RAF, he was in the fire service there, so we used to go on base visiting quite a bit. So we always used to go to RAF Waddington Air Show. My dad used to work on a lot of the bases. He's a plumber, or was a plumber in his life. They used to do a lot of work at the bases, including, I don't think I've ever told this story before, but he used to work for his mate. They kind of like had it sounded a bit like Rodney Trotter kind of enterprise, where they went down, 2 plumbers in a van, and he went onto an RAF base, and he was doing a sink in this. It was a briefing room, and he was working underneath the sink, and all these guys came in, and the officer gave the briefing, and then my dad dropped his Stilsons, and everything went silent, and he looked underneath. He's like, "How long have you been here?" My dad's like, "Well, since before you came in." It's like, "Come with me. Have to sign the Official Secrets Act."
Well, with my dad being in the RAF, I ended up working with airplanes most of my life. So I've worked at all the British Aerospace system sites, of course. So I've worked on multitudes of airplanes. So my dad worked on them, but I worked on them as a civvy. You know what I mean? So Eurofighter, Hawk, the Avro 146 regional jet, Chinook, loads I could mention. So yeah, a varied career in the aerospace industry. So yeah,
I met a very interesting man yesterday for this job, which I gave up instantly. I was shadowing one of the salespeople, and we went to this appointment, and we went through it all and got talking to the husband, mainly the wife who was buying stuff, and he used to work at AWE Aldermaston. Right. Or AWRE, as it was when he first was there. Actually testing, he was setting up like the tests for the nukes. Wow. So he worked on all these things. So he said the last test they did, the Bristol, he used to fly out to Nevada 3 times a year. And apparently AWE always had better data than the Americans. The Americans didn't know how we did it so well, as usual. Sorry, any US guys on the stream. But, we might do things smaller, but we do it better. And he said the Bristol, that all of the tests had to have a number associated with them.
Yeah.
So he said for the Bristol test, they gave it the the Bristol area telephone code. Like no like super code or anything. It's just like, oh, what's the telephone code for Bristol? Oh, 747. I just give it that.
So was it the Vulcan and the Falklands, and he broke the probe and he had to land in where was it now? Was it Brazil?
Yeah.
And he's talking to their traffic controller, and to throw him off, he just says, "Oh, we're from Huddersfield," and the air traffic controller ain't got a clue what he was, and that's why it landed. The reason why it landed, I mean, they impounded it, but it was unless you're English, you won't know.
Yeah, actually, my uncle, what I was talking about before, he was based in the Falklands for a while, and he said it's like he said the amount of time you spend like looking at penguin shit.
Yeah.
It's just like not anything to write out. He liked being in Crete. I don't know. Were you one of those RF families that whenever you had been on a posting and then came back, you were like sort of brought the cuisine and everything with you? Because they came back from Crete and it was all tzatziki and tahini and stuff. It was
maybe
which was good. We went to see them, didn't it?
Maybe some of the Cypriot dishes, because we came back from Cyprus after the Turks invaded the island, so we evacuated once because we lived off place.
Like Cyprus, not Crete.
Yeah, went back to Akrotiri, and then there was a ceasefire. Went back, they kicked off again, and they decided to fly all the civvies back home. But I remember landing at Brize Norton in my Bondi boots, my shorts, walking off this VC10. It's miserable, foggy, rain, freezing, and I'm going to my mum. When are we going home? She says, "This is your home." I said, "Oh, really?" But I'm trying to think because we started. I remember. When we ended up in Marham sort of thing. A lot of the Cypriot cuisine sort of thing was still there in the background. But yeah.
So just having a look at the chat again. So Michael says, "I'd love to see an Airfix release. I'd love to my teeth in and be able to read. I'd love to see Airfix release a vintage classic of a 1/72 scale P-38 Lightning. Wasn't that an American aircraft? It was. So the vintage classics aren't restricted to British releases. It's essentially anything pre-CAD. Apparently, is the classification of what can be a vintage classic. Which does actually. Sorry.
The Hudson will be a nice release. The Lockheed Hudson that Airfix released.
Right, yeah.
That will be a nice classic to re-release as well.
I think I've done the Airfix P-38. You see, the problem I see, and again, this kind of goes back to the kind of premise. I'll keep trying to bring it back, even though we go massively.
Yes, sorry, I will waffle if you're not careful. Yeah,
this is always how it works, Greg. Sometimes, we spend 10 minutes on the subject, and then the rest of the stuff is just as waffle.
Well, hopefully people will ask questions that they might, and then we can, yeah.
You know how much by how many questions they're asking. So we must have kept relatively on scope. But I think the thing with the Airfix Vintage Classics is, why would you buy an Airfix Classic P-38? Because there are a lot of really nice P-38s in 72nd scale out there. So you're narrowing your market, right? Which is why I was disappointed with the Belvedere, because if they'd re-engineered that transparency, it would have opened it up to a lot more people. Whereas it's really based purely on nostalgia now, which is it's a small and also, think about it, shrinking market.
Definitely, yeah, definitely.
The Belvedere was told before I was born, and I'm not a spring chicken. So,
Yeah, you look at a lot of the model shows now, you look at the generation that goes there, very few young people. Very few young people, at TELF and things like that. But although I that to somebody and says, well, a lot of the Europeans and Czechs and Poles, there's quite a big market there. they're interested in. Yeah, but I was going to say 1/2 scale. I'm surprised how many comments I get where people avoid it because it's too small for them. 48 is the smallest scale they'll work with.
Yeah. So I'm just going through, and yeah, not many questions tonight. How about that? Oh no, that was the wrong one. So Ian Stevenson says, just as a matter of interest, I returned to modelling after nearly 50 years after watching Greg's videos. So thanks, Greg.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you very much.
So
I put him off with the Belvedere one.
Yeah, up until the Belvedere, then he stopped.
It put me off.
Well, I mean, and that is again one of the kind of things I feel about the vintage classics. If people aren't aware, if people are returning to the hobby and kind of see those and just like, oh, I remember Airfix doing that. They're still doing it. I'll get that. And they have that sort of experience. Is that going to put you off? Rather than if you bought, for instance, the new BF 109F starter kit, which is, it falls together. For some bits I don't like it. I think it's a bit too oversimplified in some areas, but anybody could build it. It's a great entry point or re-entry point into the hobby. It gives you that quick, nice, easy win. And if you don't want to do it in the scheme that's supplied, it's a 109F. There's 1,000 different schemes you can do.
It's a score for choice, yeah. I mean, when people ask me the question, when they, what's a good start kit, I say, you can't beat a Tamiya kit. They're a bit more pricey, but I was saying, but some of the new tooled Airfix kits are on a par, I think. That, you know what I mean? That they're, and look at the new tooled kits. Just be careful about what you buy, and then. I'll mention the Buccaneer or the Sea King, things like that, where, I know they're going to be safe. But I remember Airfix re-releasing the Vulcan some time ago with the terrible painter sets. And I think when it was released in '83, it was a difficult kit, and thankfully they've done a new tooled one now, so it wipes out those molds and that kit history now. But at the time before the new retooled one was released, it was a horrendous kit. You think kids are going to look at that? That's a Vulcan, great, I want to build it. And I think even I'd wince at buying that, and you think, what's the mentality behind that? I mean, thankfully it's all changed now. Airfix seem to be on the ball now. They know what they're doing and they know what whereas way back when, I don't know, I didn't understand what the method was. It comes with a paint set and those silly little brushes. You think, the kid's going to build that with his father or his mother or what? And you think,
it's the same sort of mentality that Revell have been doing forever, right? Is we've got this tooling, we'll throw it out. It costs us nothing to make it because we've imprinted tens of thousands of them by now. So we'll stick it with our, the usual paints. Revell do crap brushes, by the way, in those sets. They're garbage. The best thing you can do with it is take the top off and use the stick to stir paint with, because the brush is worth nothing. Airfix, actually, Humbrol brushes are decent. They're actually decent brushes. I mean, you're not going to use them for fine detail, but they are a decent brush. If you want to do undercoats on figures or if you want to brush paint stuff. And then the only thing Revell does good is that they actually put a tiny little precision poly in there. That's the best thing about their starter kits. But really, it's a very expensive way to buy that one little bit of poly. Because the kit they usually supply is garbage. It's usually one of their 1950s, 60s, 70s poor toolings. That's what Airfix used to do. And since they cleaned up their act, did the vintage classics, retooled new tools for the starter kits, purpose designed to be built by starters. Perfect. Before that, it was you'd recommend a Tamiya 72nd kit for starter, no problem at all.
But even now with the Tamiya and Italieri, you've got to be careful because they rebox certain molds. You know what I mean? So unless you just got to be. And it makes me wince sometimes because I just want to educate people who are coming into the subject, and just hopefully they'll ask the right questions, and hopefully we can guide them. But I always get the question, I want to make models on. I'm getting back into it. What do you suggest? So Airfix new tools, recent new tools, you can't, beautiful kits or Tamiya, whether it's military or airplanes. But in that same breath, just be careful, because some of the earlier Tamiya molds were okay, but just got. That's why like the 109s and things like that, the new tool 109s and the Spitfires, that Tamiya, go for those, because they're usually the subjects that they're going for, Battle of Britain stuff, things like that.
So Ian, thank you for the feedback, and I know, certainly for me, I'm sure it's the same for Greg, getting that kind of feedback. I see it in the shop as well, people coming in, getting back into the hobby. That's really motivating for us, because it's a great hobby, and sharing it and bringing people in, and anything we can help with is
that's what it's all about, showing people what you can do, hopefully educating, and hopefully with the comments, educating them, because I'm sure there's a market out there for people, because they don't know about these things, and it's nice to see at the Telford shows where they've got an area for kids to make models. Airfix supply the kits, and it's just bringing that youth and that interest back into the subject. But
well, on that note, Greg, Cameron has mentioned 25-year-old here sat building an Airfix English Electric Lightning. So.
It's not a bad kit. It's a good kit.
It is. Yeah.
It's a good kit. It's one of the better ones. Yeah. Yeah. I remember.
I still do see. Not in the same numbers as obviously when modelling was kind of it was the go-to hobby for young boys kind of thing. But in the shop, I still see there's one kid in particular comes in with his mum every 4 to 6 weeks, buys one or if you can get away with it, 2 kits. There are a lot of people who have either been in or are serving in the military, and that kind of ranges from mid-20s onwards that come to the hobby, and a lot of people like Ian before who come back to the hobby after a break. So I think we are getting a refreshing of people. They might not be coming in at the 6, 7, 8-year-olds that perhaps our generation, the Gen X onwards, did, but I think we are getting it. It's just changed a little bit in how the churn is, because now there are so many distractions, so many possibilities for kids' time. Tablets are ubiquitous, the internet's there, you can play games on pretty much anything. So
I think that creative bend, a lot of the wargaming is a massive field, that is massive area, and with 3D printing, it's opened up that interest. The amount of people who've got 3D printers, I keep meaning to get one, but at some point. But I look at the hobby and I think, right, if I can make my own parts, how much of the stretch of the imagination can I create a whole new kit? Why do I need a manufacturer? I can do my own subject, scale I want. And you look now where 3D printers are actually printing color, paint, color.
Yeah.
And you look at old photocopies, where that began and where it's still, how much it's, and you think at some point in the future, I'll just download, I want a Spitfire, 1/96 scale, in these markings, heavily weathered, blah, 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 off you go. And I'll wake up next morning and it'll be there. And as much as I dread that, I think that's maybe where it could be going, the hobby, where manufacturers just say, people can create their own thing now. They can create their own.
I think 10 years down the line. I can see that for war games. I think, although you see, the other part of me says, if you look at Games Workshop, the most successful games company ever, British originally. I don't know why I'm saying this. I don't normally have a go at other thing. We're just being proud Brits tonight.
Nothing wrong in that.
Exactly. But I mean, they have managed to sustain and get interest in a demographic which was traditionally, very much, that sort of 12 years old to 35 plus. Um, um, they've managed to sustain that pretty well. And that is the whole hobby. That is buying the things, putting them together, painting them, fighting the battles with them, expanding your army. They're continually reinventing that and continually expanding that. And I think model companies could take a few pages out of their book about how they engage their community, and obviously there isn't a game to play in that, but a lot of people do Warhammer for the figures, for the painting. There's a lot of mini painters out there who never play the actual game, or don't play it. They play it maybe once or twice a year, or once an edition. So I think there are ways of doing it, because it's a bit like painting, right? We can take a photo now. Digital cameras are ubiquitous. Hardly anybody ever prints anything. It's usually digital, not a copy. But you still have painters. People still paint for recreation. They paint landscapes. People sell paintings. That still exists, and probably more people, I would say, do painting as a recreation now than they did 50 years ago, perhaps. The access to stuff is a lot greater. YouTube tutorials, so that people now can learn how to do it rather than reading a book and have the actual course and all that kind of thing. So I think there are ways to do it. It's whether the companies will kind of move in that way to provide.
Yeah, maybe if it's, like I said, maybe in the war gaming or enter it into a different subject where you can bring those people in and they know, oh, there's airplanes here, there's tanks here, a subject I never really thought of doing, but maybe entice them in Airfix with, as you said, the war gaming or the manga or the subjects that will bring that generation to maybe the other side of it, ships, boats, tanks and airplanes. Because you remember, you and I would come from an area where there was all sorts of planes flying around, air shows, the subject was there. We weren't sat on a Nintendo or whatever sort of thing. And I think this generation, I don't think there's enough air shows in this country for a start. There's been a lot cancelled, but I don't know. It's bringing that generation into the subject that we know. Notifying them, letting them know. Maybe by producing subjects that they're interested in, you can do that. But I don't know. But,
I think there's hope with millennials, Gen Z. Who knows?
Yeah. Well,
if the world survives that long, we'll examine it in 10 years' time, right?
At the moment, Alex, I just take each week as it comes with what's going on. So,
question here from Taggers. Here's one for you, Greg. Date guess for Airfix new tool surprise release, if any. I think they probably will do one. Sea King was 25th of July. ME410 was 10th of November last year.
well, I'm glad the Liberator showed up on the scene. That was long overdue, although the House Gow ones are a very good kit, but they were fetching silly prices. You know what? It wouldn't surprise me. One of the bombers, maybe a short Sterling.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did it at Salford again.
I mean, the ME410 was such a niche, a subject. I love Second World War German airplanes. I love them. But I think, didn't Fine Molds have one?
Yeah.
Which was a pretty good kit. I don't know whether it was a different mark, but it was
Matchbox one.
Yeah, well, I mean, Matchbox, again, fantastic subjects. Lots of T-Bird Lightnings and Hunters. Fantastic subjects, but once again, crude kit. But they were great, as I said. The 1/36 scale Tiger Moth and the Dauntless and the Sea Venom. 1/36 scale Sea Venom that Matchbox had. Wow.
But I think the Matchbox. I mean, this is what I found as a kind of guess, teenager more with Matchbox kits. Although I did quite a lot of the armor stuff when I was smaller.
But the armor was better. Yeah.
Yeah. But they were great as they were easy to put together. I think they made great kind of starter-ish kits because they didn't require an awful lot and they looked pretty good when they were together. And yes, you could look at it. I mean, they were one of the first British manufacturers, I think, that did recessed panel lines. They were trenches, but they weren't the raised panel lines other people did. And they looked good, if you didn't look too hard. And now if you take an old Matchbox kit, you can make something nice of it that had some nice effects. I actually really like the geodetic surface design they had for the Wellington and the fabric and the Wellesley as well. Wellesley, that was good. Nice.
I mean, the 1/36 scale Puma. I remember building that, and like I said, once it's built, it looks great, but what a nightmare! Nothing fitted. Very basic stuff. I mean, what was the Flower Corvette, the boat?
Yeah, I never built any of the bigger stuff.
Oh, well, you're not missing anything. You know what I mean? I mean, fantastic subjects, but horrendous kits. On a par with the Belvedere. But yeah, it was. Don't know, great subjects, and maybe one day I will. There's somebody keeps threatening, challenging me to make the 1/36 scale Puma, which I think will be a great subject and a great kit to build. But on that scale, it would need so much. I'd have to produce so much design work for the cockpit and other areas. But I'm thinking about it. But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, in terms of date for an Airfix new tool surprise release, it wouldn't surprise me if it was Telford again, because I think
it will be. If they're going to do it, it'd be Telford, definitely.
It generated a lot of interest, I think. I mean, I love the 410, right? I've actually sat in the 410 at Cosford. It was always an aircraft I really liked. I haven't yet built that 410 from Airfix, and that was because it really. The way they released it, they only let 5 suppliers know in advance. Just 5 big suppliers at Telford, which, pardon my French, but it fucks all the other retailers in the country. Small independents, because big guys, Jadland, Wonderland, everything, going to soak it all up at that one event, and there's no, which, for me, Airfix has been a massive disappointment this year compared to last year. Not necessarily in what they're doing in their design, but the business practices side of it. They need to sort their QC out. I've said this many times on the channel before. People will know they need to sort their QC out. They need to sort out their business relationships because it sucks what they do.
That's a shame.
And it is a shame. It really lets down. Because the designers, I bet, Chris and Paramjit and stuff, they're fantastic guys. The team, the Airfix team, design team, everybody really knowledgeable, really enthusiastic. You just feel the large organization is letting them down with these corporate decisions, which are not good business. Being in corporate management for 20 odd years, it's like, you don't treat distribution networks like that if you want to keep them, because you're already competing with them directly. So that kind of soured the whole thing for me. So now I look at the 410, I'm just reminded of that. I know it's a really nice kit. I know I'd like building it, but it's like I need to get over that. It needs some distance. Time heals all wounds. But I think Telford would be a smart move. I think doing it at Telford.
But as you said, I mean, with the 410, that would have been the last thing that anybody would have guessed at. So it really is.
No idea what they might do.
It blew me out of the water. I thought, what? I thought, great, but I thought, when you think of a Puma, let's go. Puma would be a great new tool kit. The Puma, there's the old Hello one, but or a Link.
I'd love a 1/48 scale Jaguar.
Yeah. Don't you think the Kitty Hawk? I mean, yeah, maybe that is on the
Yeah, but
cards.
I don't think Airfix look at companies like Kitty Hawk as competition,
Yeah.
because it's a different type of build, it's a different price point, and I think they're looking at Revell, Tamiya. Tamiya kits are usually more expensive than new tools
Oh
because
yeah.
obviously they have a kind of tool age dependent pricing policy. But I think that's kind of where they're looking at. Price it a bit lower than Tamiya, compete with them on quality as far as they can. Make it well engineered. Have you done the 48 scale Gannet?
Yeah, I built which is a superb kit.
Yeah,
I
I mean the
can't.
engineering of that is fantastic. I think it's
Those kits where thing even puts Tamiya to shame, where you could fit the wings because it's sunken the wing root, and it just slides in, clips in. You don't need any filler. I can still take them apart now, and that's the sort of that's where Airfix have got to, and it's superb and it's great. And I think now you mentioned it, the Jaguar would be a superb
with a correct
addition.
canopy.
Well, you got to remember, yeah. I'm sure it was the old Hella molds and then I can't remember now, but yeah, it just wasn't right. But yeah, that will be a great release from Airfix, and I think it'd be a winner. And I think a lot of people have been asking for that.
Yeah. You would kind of stick with the general kind of feel of a lot of Airfix releases as well.
You've got the Hunter, you've got the Buccaneer, Phantom, maybe a RAF Phantom.
Or Tornado, even.
No, I don't want no Tornado. I worked on them. Don't work now. Can't stand them. Hate them with a passion.
Gee. Moving quickly on before we get any backlash.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, keep it
up. Julian says, agreed about the vintage classics. You have to know what Airfix mean. Yeah, I think. Yeah, and I have known some people that have said that, and I think it's fine if you've, and this is where I have the issue with the way Airfix kind of deal with distributors and retailers and things, because if you've got a model shop, obviously like I do, you can advise people, So that young kid, I think he's probably 10. I have no idea about kids' ages, So I did mine when they grew up, and then I forgot it all. But say he's 10, 12, whatever. He came in, he was looking at stuff, and he was like, picked up the vintage classic Wessex. And I was like, I said to his mum, it's like, vintage classic ones are kind of like, they're a bit more difficult if you're starting out. He's done other Airfix kits, but the new tool stuff. So it's just like, probably not the right thing for him. And they put it back and got other things, which is fine. But if you don't know that, you're just buying off the internet, and you see the subject, you don't really know about Airfix vintage classics. If you're not a modeler, a native modeler, let's say, or coming back to the hobby, we forget how much we take for granted. It's just like, oh, Airfix vintage classics, yeah, of course, everybody knows. Everybody in our little circle, if you're coming into the hobby, you might not know that, and you could buy something that would put you off coming back into the hobby because you're like, I've had a break of 40 years and nothing has changed.
Yeah, I don't know whether Airfix would put something on the box, say, for the experienced model. I don't know whether that's on the box or not. I wouldn't know, but maybe some sort of notification that, not for kids.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's, that's kind of what the YouTube community, we all know what it is. We talk about it. So hopefully then it does become more general knowledge rather than, if you are thinking of getting back into it, then you understand what these are. But, at Airfix do put the tooling date on, which is a vast improvement over everybody else, I think, in the industry, which I think is great. But it's not that big. You have to look for it. So,
that's what I mean. It just, yeah. So like I said, I think, as I said, I don't know what application time and cost wise would have been to rectify the canopy, but with this day and age and modern tooling and things like that, personally, as I said, without the full knowledge of the actual tooling process involved, it would have been a bit of a plus point. You know what I mean? That's all it really needed. You could live with a hub if you are young, and you know what I mean. You could live with a hub and the undercarriage.
For a vintage classic, yeah, you could be like, you know, these are all kind of the age. But yeah, the transparency. Why did Airfix? The thing I really don't get is why, when they originally tooled it, did they split it vertically? Why
I
not?
think it's slowly processed.
Split it the other way.
Yeah, well, because you've got the bulge windows either side, because you don't have the split moulding. They had to split it in two because you've got. It's just the shape. That's the reason why they did it. They didn't do it, you know, to be sadistic. It was purely because the bulges on the window, the mold wouldn't have been able to release, and that's why they had to do it. But
I mean, it kind of bugs me that because of course the windows on the original Belvedere, the ones that as modelled, the prototype ones, opened upwards.
Yeah,
and they changed them because the same with the hanger, not hanger door, the side door.
Side door, yeah,
sliding that went up as well, because they found that the downwash from the rotors used to slam them shut, so they made them sliding. That changes them completely. They have these big rails. If you actually see a Belvedere, it's massive. Not pretty what they did.
It's like steampunk. It's like steampunk. It really is. Yeah,
it's not fine.
I looked at the photographs and thinking, as a museum, added something to it. And I looked at the original photographs, and no, that's how it was. It was proper steampunk engineering on it. It was, from the comments I had, it wasn't a brilliant bit of machinery. Yeah, but yeah. Well,
actually, it was. I was reading about it, and it was some really interesting stories about people like who flew them. There's this one guy. There's a really good site. I can't remember what it is, but a pilot, ex-pilot, talking about them, and he said there's one that actually the engine exploded behind them because the engine apparently wasn't very good, the original ones, and he had to escape. This guy had to escape through the window, and they modified lots of things from it. But one of the changes they actually made to it is that they put an armored piece behind the pilot. He said it was the only RAF aircraft that had an armor plate to protect the pilot from his own aircraft.
The fee for the confidence, isn't it? Hey, wow. But it's as I said, I don't know. I mean, like the Wasp, as I said, that's been new tooled and released, and it's a subject you wouldn't think other manufacturers would deal with, but you know, they do appear every now and then. Like I said, there's supposed to be one on the card, so it'll be very interesting to see what it looks like.
So Ian also says, I'm avoiding Revell because they were crap in my day and I'm dubious that they've got any better. Revell had a renaissance a bit like Airfix, but internally around the turn of the century. So the late 90s, early noughties kits. And I'm thinking of things like the Flitzer. They did a whole range of 1/72 scale fighters, the ME-262, the 109 G10, Spitfire Mark V. They did the Blommenvoss BV-222, which they're re-releasing this year, the Arado ARE 555. They did the Arado AR240. They did a whole bunch of kits, and they're beautiful. You know,
I mean, we talked about Tornado. I had to do a couple of Tornadoes for magazines. They sent me the kits to build, and I was pleasantly surprised with the build quality and the fit of the Tornadoes. I know some people have issues with the accuracy of the nose of the ADV, but they went together very well and quite nicely detailed. I thought they were very good kits. 2009 or something like that. So, yeah.
And then the problems come in after the noughties. So you get into the 2010s, it kind of tails off, and they go through a bit of a, which is obviously they went bust, and then they were bought. They're now owned by an asset management company. They became Carrera Revell. They do a whole bunch of stuff, and they've kind of got mixed practices. They've kind of gone back to some of what they're old. They haven't done an awful lot of new toolings in the past 5 to 10 years. So Revell has periods where it does nice stuff. It's capable of doing really nice stuff. It did the new Mandalorian N1 Starfighter, which generally had some really nice engineering on it, and then some really stupid stuff, like they molded the Revell symbol on the outside of the hull of the ship. I mean, which is what they used to do in the 70s, you know, and it's like you have to carve it off. It's like ludicrous, you know. So obviously Luke from Airfix has gone to Revell. Luke asked a whole bunch of people, a whole bunch of YouTubers about what his opinions were. So hopefully we're starting to see, they did a podcast, not very good, but they did a podcast a little while ago. I think that they are directionally correct in what they're trying to do, course correction. Let's wait for that to take up a bit of steam. Hopefully in the next couple of years, we can start to see some changes at Revell in the same way that we've seen at Airfix.
Yeah. Because the Heinkel Owl, the 1/36 scale, and even to a point, the 111, not bad kits.
Yeah. They also did the 32nd scale one, which I got with. I got it at the Yeovil show last year. No, the Salisbury show last year, and 132nd HE219 with resin, aftermarket engines, and yeah.
Yes, I got the brass turned antennae as well.
Yeah, got those as well.
The reason why I won't touch it is because I don't want to do that paintwork, but I do want to build a kit. Oh,
see, I'm really looking forward to that. So.
Oh no, I'd get bored.
You what? No. You build it, Greg. I'll paint it.
I'll send it to you. We'll do that. Yeah. I'll send it in sub-assemblage. Yeah.
Okay. Mark says, "Come tomorrow evening. My 7-year-old will be gluing pieces of Shackleton together. I think I have them hooked already." Good job, Mark. Good job.
That's a good kit, the Revell Shackleton.
Just trying to go through the. I've just realised it's 10 o'clock. So just trying to go through questions here. If you have worked on a particular aircraft, ship, land vehicles, then get a kit. Would you be disappointed on lack of detail, or would you add your own? Well, that's a good question.
I'm as I said with let's take the Super Freighter for instance. There's no surface detail whatsoever on there. It's a good kit. The paintwork will bring it to life. If it's 148, yeah. 172 scale, you can get away with so much. But the thought of riveting, even a 172 scale kit, no, not for me, please, no. If you saw the plane in real life at that scale, you wouldn't really see much surface detail. Maybe the odd panel or the ailerons you would rescribe, but no.
Yeah, I think I would be. So actually, I have a Tamiya Mitsubishi GTO. So I got one. I got one for the shop and one for myself because I used to have a Mitsubishi GTO.
Oh wow!
And I want to do it as I did mine. The only thing is, I had aftermarket alloys that I put on mine, so I need to try and maybe I could even get your 3D modeling skills, Greg, because I need to make those alloys.
If you send me some photographs and some measurements, all right, I see what I can do.
But yeah, I think. I mean, one of the reasons I want to make it is just for the making it, and it's a good reason to have it. I think it would be a good video to say, you know, I had this car and I wanted to make it, and that's something people can relate to, and hopefully inspire them to do similar for vehicles they've owned. Am I going to go to the detail that I can't remember the channel now? The guy who does just phenomenal car work, where he like makes his own hinges and stuff, and everything works. It looks like a miniaturized. Possibly.
No.
Can't remember, but am I going to go to that level? No. I just want to make it look like my car. Yeah. So I'm not going to put all the crisp packets and stuff that were inside.
I think this is one thing we must instill in modelers, that you don't have to super detail anything. There's this brain set where I need to add all sorts, and you don't. It's all, for me personally, it's all about the overall finish of any kit. Rescribing, there's this mindset now where I've got to do this, I've got to super detail, which is fine if it floats your boat, but you don't have to. There's no need, you know, personally, you know, it's you know, just enjoy the hobby. You don't have to worry about, you know, if you struggle that sort of thing or don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. It's, you know, you can make a good kit from a basic kit half the time.
Yeah, yeah. So I think, you know, disappointed on lack of detail. I think it really depends on. I mean, for that car, I mean, it's 1/24 scale. If it didn't have, for instance, open vents or the option to have the headlights popped up or down, then maybe I'd consider, well, actually, I want to do that, because that's kind of
like I said, at 1/24 scale, you know, you think, right, I need to open things up because that's a done. But like you said, do I need to? You know, I'm just trying, you know, as long as there's tread on the tires and things like that, and usually that scale, very rarely these days you would find where they haven't opened up grills and opened up vents, but there's obviously exceptions to the case. But yeah, when you get to bigger subjects, like the Airfix Stuka, maybe the console, that definitely needs doing. So you'd buy an aftermarket product, do that. That's really all you have to do. Maybe the exhaust and the paintwork and the, you know, should speak for itself then. As I said, you know, people will go uptown. There are resin kits out there for the Airfix 1/24 scale Stuka, but if someone gave them to me, I'd use them. But I'm not going to waste money on the expense when I think I can just build them. You know, no, it's horses for courses, but for me, it's not the end of the world.
So have you ever owned a Stuka?
I wish. I'd be quite a wealthy man, wouldn't I? I'm building, you know, the Gillows, the balsa wood ones.
Oh,
Gillows, yeah. 1/18 scale or something. So I've got that. I love them. So I've got that on the go at the moment. Yeah. So
excellent. Right. Well, we are past the witching hour, people. So I want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight and putting up with our meanderings. I think the conclusion, as probably with most of my conclusions, is it's your money, it's your hobby. You do what you want. So if you don't want a Belvedere, if you think $15.99 is too much to spend on a kit that was made in 1959, then don't do it. If you do, if you want that nostalgia, if you build it as a kid and want to relive that, that's perfectly valid. If you want to challenge yourself and try and recreate something like Greg did, you know, make your own parts, whether scratch built or in CAD, 3D printed, whatever, then again, that's your choice. So it's your hobby. Don't let anybody gatekeep it and tell you what to do, because that's not what it's about. Lastly, thank you very much to Greg for coming on, and also for his fine work on Belvedere. Very inspirational, although I'm fine with watching it rather than actually doing it.
Pain Barry, yeah. Well, thanks for having me on, Alex, and I will pop into the shop at some time. I will do that.
Welcome. And for those of you who haven't checked out Greg's channel, please do. As always, I'll pop a link to that in the video description after the stream is finished. And on that, everybody have a great rest of your week, have a great weekend, and hopefully catch you on the next one. Thanks, guys. Bye now.
See you later, Alex. Bye.